Hi,
Hi,
Beckie.
Angie. How many times do you think you have reinvented yourself?
Oh, dear. Countless. Countless. That's interesting. I think every day I'm reinventing myself.
Hey, everyone, this is Becky,
And I'm Angie.
and welcome to Real Talk with Becky and Angie.
Doing something different or trying something different or taking this, shifting but I would say I'm very much of a chameleon. I change and transform myself a lot. A lot. I'm not one of the most consistent people in the world. I do know that. But that's such an interesting question. What brings that up?
Today, we're talking about second act success, and that could be reinventing yourself through your career, through your health, any aspect of your life. And maybe it's the fourth act or the seventh act or the 355th act. Based off of what you just
Of
said,
more to
yeah,
come.
based off of what you just said, it sounds like you are reinventing on the regular, like wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, no, I definitely. In fact, I often wonder what it would be like for people that I see or know that. In fact, we just had dinner with some friends this last weekend, and the husband is very much, he goes to work, he comes home, he does the chores, he does the things, he goes to work, comes home, and, it's just, that's what he does. That's what he's done for a very long time. And I think, what would that be like? Just for one, to be in one career for years and years. It's like Jake's sister we were talked about in a previous podcast. She's been with the same company for practically her entire professional career, and she's our age. And I'm baffled, or I guess mystified. I don't know what the word is. I just don't know what that would be like to be doing the same. And it's not around judgment. It's just that you said you think that in a previous podcast, you thought you might have ADHD. I'm clinically ADHD, so I do know that I have. So, but I am always like, ooh, what's next? What can I do now? What extra can I do? So, yeah.
Well, I think so. A couple of things that you said. You're this guy that does the same thing every day, day after day after day. There is something to be said about a routine and know what to expect and know what to expect every day. I do like a routine. I do like to know, okay, I'm going to have my coffee is going to be ready at 5 a.m. and I'm going to get up at 5:05. And so I like to have a routine, and I can have a routine and still reinvent myself.
I don't understand routines.
Really, you're not a routine type of a
I'm
person.
not a routine
I
person
did
at
not
all.
know that about you at all.
I've never been a routine person, ever.
Wow.
No, you really didn't know that
Mm-mm.
about me? What makes you think that I would be a routine person? Let's ask that question. I'm curious because we all have perceptions of
Yeah.
people, right? Like we think they're a certain way, or, you know, um, why would you think I had a routine?
I can't say that I ever consciously thought Angie has a routine. Put that right
You
in the
just,
vault. I know that's the way it is. I just never thought about it one way or the other. Like
yeah,
even when
okay.
you were like Felicia was little and you made lunch and took care of her on a daily basis, you didn't have a routine that you followed every day.
I mean, there are basic necessities of life that we do, like I brush my teeth and do the certain things, but it's not like my alarm goes off at a certain time and I'm up and I've done these 14 things before a certain time. I've tried that. Does not work for me. I I'm just no. It gets done. Everything that's supposed to get done gets done when there's some time throughout the day. Maybe some days, well, for instance, exercise. Sometimes I work out first thing in the morning. Sometimes I work out at night. Sometimes I'm very fluid, and I've always been that way. That's not very new for me, unless I am accountable to someone else. So when I had my gym membership and I had a trainer that I was paying dearly for, I was there. But other than that, if it's just up to me and my lifestyle, it's going to get done, but it's going to get done on my time frame. And yeah, I'm not as structured as I think people think that I am. Um, and that gives me the flexibility to be able to shift and change and try something because I'm not very rigid. I will be like, ooh, okay, so I had this on my calendar today, but I really want to do this. So I'm going to do something else. And then things shift and change.
That's where I was going to go. Because, see, I am the same with that whole, I I don't want to create a calendar and then go, I'm not going to flow with that calendar today. It just doesn't, I want to do something different. So when you have something on your calendar and you're thinking,
Mhm.
that's not really what I want to do, or I'm going to make an adjustment, like, what's that process for you?
I will look at it and say, okay, I'm shifting. I know that I'm shifting. So it'll be like, okay, for instance, I had a certain amount of things that I needed to do for Poshmark this week. So I need to do this many. Well, I didn't get as many done today because I chose to do something else. So I'm moving that to the next day. Regardless, it's going to get done before my show on Saturday, but I shift things around and I move them. And I also still swear by my erasable pins
I think about you every time I use them.
because in the days of whenever it was that days of gone, I don't know, whatever, before I had these, I would have my little symbols like an arrow pointing. That means it carried over. It didn't get done,
Mm.
things like that. So an arrow would say, taking it to the next day, see the next day, things like that. So I've always had that ability to shift. And because things come up and I'm going to do something different. And that's part of missing. So me, I feel like I would miss opportunities if I really stayed rigid. But reinventing myself as reinventing 100%, career wise, I've had multiple
Mm-hmm.
careers, very different careers. Um, Reinventing myself as in, what would be an example of reinventing ourselves in the second act? Reinventing. Can you think of an
Well, for me, what
example?
comes up for me is career, changing careers,
Okay.
completely
Yeah.
changing
So,
careers. Yeah.
um, I've changed careers multiple times throughout my life. So I've had multiple things. I've done a lot of different things. So changing careers, I have never, I really, other than when I was at 360 Wraps, other than that, I was in the Air Force for 8 years. And then everything is like a 4-year cycle for me. And then I don't know how long I was actually involved in day to day operations at 360. But yeah, I, I just change and evolve. I like change. I like growth. I like changing. So career wise, I've never been like a lifer. But you were I'm going to get this correct. You were a manicurist. Is that what you
Yeah.
said it was?
I mean, people say
Okay,
nail technician, but I would say manicurist.
Okay, so you were a manicurist for 20 years. Is that
25
correct?
years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And where were you? In one place or did you
No,
go multiple
multiple.
places?
In fact, I
Okay.
had a client one time. She was so funny. She goes, Becky, I've crossed out phone numbers for you at salons more than I have for anybody else I know. She's like, okay, she's not there anymore. She's not there anymore. Okay, she's not there anymore. No, I bet I changed every year. Like every year I changed to a different salon.
What was the reason for the change?
I don't know. One, I got mad, thought there'd be something better somewhere else. It was always there'd be something better somewhere else. I'd get bored.
Ooh,
I
the
get
grass
bored.
is greener. See, you get
Yeah,
bored.
like,
Okay,
okay,
that's
I
really
don't
the
want to be
thing.
around these people anymore. They're bugging me. I want to be around new
You
people.
want to mix things up.
Yeah, yeah.
Mix things up. That's how I am. And I think that's partly is an ADHD type thing.
So evidently, we've diagnosed me over the last three podcasts. That, by the way, we record them back to back. That I have ADHD.
Kind of thought you knew that. I mean, I'm not,
No,
of course, I'm not diagnosing. Okay, please don't go in the comments and hate on me for diagnosing Becky with ADHD, but I kind of thought you knew that.
no, 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 no. Seriously,
Okay. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't.
because
What if you did? There's no stigma around it. I have it.
no, no, I'm not. No. So here's a pivotal conversation that you and I had, and you probably don't remember. We were in Colorado, and we were driving, and you had said that you were on medication for
Uh-huh.
ADHD, and they had just adjusted it, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm like super alert, like it's really really good, and you So the medication is like, it's basically like speed. Well, I am super sensitive to speed,
Mm-hmm.
to like coffee. Like I have 1 cup of coffee a day. That's it. That's all I can take. I don't have sugar. If I have chocolate that has a lot of caffeine in it, like I'm super sensitive to it. So when we had that conversation, I'm like, well, I certainly couldn't have ADHD because if I took stuff that wound me up, and also I have that thing where medicine affects me the opposite. Like NyQuil makes me wired,
Oh.
and Dayquil makes me go to sleep. So there's a condition, there's a name for it. I don't know what it is. So I thought there's no way I would have, because that's like a
So,
test. If
well,
you,
actually, you're onto something there. So can I tell you?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, for one, I am super sensitive. There's actually another thing. There's a gene that when you can be super sensitive to medications. So I have to like take baby doses of everything. So I have to actually get special compound stuff that's baby doses. That's me. But honest, real, my whole entire life growing up, because I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD until about 10 or 12, maybe 12 years ago. I don't know, somewhere in there. So I was an adult. Um, but my whole life growing up, I was always looking for a stimulant. Let's just say a stimulant. So coffee in excess, um, anything like that. How do you put it this way? The way that doctors figured out how to treat ADHD was by looking at super successful people who were just happened to be, a lot of them were heavily addicted to cocaine. Cocaine's a stimulant. So you would think they'd be all over the place. And what they reported was it grounded them, it centered them. So when a person, there's this big hole, I don't know if this is a big thing anymore, but a lot of people, especially women, will try and get on Adderall because they want to lose weight.
mm-hmm,
And then they
mm-hmm,
get on Adderall and they don't lose weight and they're really depressed or frustrated by that, but all of a sudden they're productive, they're getting things done, and it's not because of speed, it's because their body takes that in treats the ADHD, and they don't lose weight on it. So meaning, like, if you didn't have ADHD and you started taking Adderall, you would probably release weight. But if you take it and you don't release weight and you're just normal and you actually become more productive, it's not because of speed, it's because your brain is functioning properly. So for me, though, my dosage is like super, super, like, it has to be super low, really low, the lowest there is. But as soon as I started taking it, I felt so much better. I really did. And
mm,
I didn't lose weight. So just so you know, because a lot of people think, well, I'll just go get on Adderall. I'll get on speed.
mm-hmm.
No. And so do you remember back in the day, there was now I'm not going to be able to think of it. There was a diet medication that was on the market.
Dexatrim.
It was that, and there was whatever they loved it. Got me through college. Totally got me through college because I went from 97 to 2000, and they took it off the market, but that got me through. Come to find out, it's the same active ingredient as what they treat
Mm-hmm.
ADHD. So, I mean,
Interesting.
I know that you're sensitive, and it's not a sensitive subject for me. I don't care. I mean, I feel better on it. If I was diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, so ADD was what it used to be called, attention deficit disorder, and then there was a
Mm-hmm,
separate one called ADHD, which is the hyperactive.
mm-hmm.
Now it's all under one umbrella. So ADHD is the big
Okay.
umbrella.
Okay.
I'm not hyper. I don't have hyper tendencies. It's just I have focus problems. Always have. So remember when we were in high school, I was always looking for that. See, we're talking about reinventing ourselves. I was always looking for that thing to get in trouble,
Mm-hmm. The new thing.
to like
Uh-huh.
stir up stuff and to like try this and try that and do this and do that. I think that if I had been diagnosed with ADD at a younger age, and I know there's a lot of controversy about giving medications to kids and what age and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, who knows how things would have been different. Not that I want to go back and change my life at all, but there's my thing. I don't care. We can talk about it. And I do remember parts of the conversation. So there's nothing wrong with, if you're fine the way without being on any kind of medication, Just be you. Don't worry about it.
Well, I am looking to. Well, I've got an appointment in 2 weeks with a naturopath, and so I'm looking to figure out, because for me it's clarity and focus. And I get distracted so easily, and I tell myself that's a habit. I could change the habit. I can change the habit. I can change the habit. And and sometimes I can. So I've been, like, Mel Robbins has been talking about it a lot lately, and it's actually coming up in my TikTok. People, they're talking about ADHD. I'm like, God, are all the signs there? So I know I was diagnosed with anxiety at 37. I think I was 37, and I remember just thinking the way my brain was normal. That was how everybody thought. Everybody thought the way I thought. And, it was obsessive thoughts where I'd wake up in the middle of the night, a conversation that I had 3 weeks ago, I would play over and over and over and over again and obsess about it. And so I was diagnosed with anxiety and just a titch of OCD. And so I got on medication, and I remember the day when the medication took effect, and it was like the fog lifted, and I could talk to people, and I could hear them and listen to them, and I knew what they were saying. I could truly be with them. Like, it was life changing. And I'm like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. And so the side effects of that medication were not great. And I went off of it the right way, and then chose to go back on it, and then again side effects, and then so I've been off of it for 10 years. I've not taken, and I have learned to manage my anxiety, which is like a big deal. And now it's like with humor, and I also am able to manage the OCD. And so we're like really, really going there today.
Yeah.
And we started with second act success. Somehow we've gotten to mental health.
It's what we do,
so
people.
It's
just what we do.
It's what we do. And so when I think about being able to manage the anxiety, and I think about, well, then if I can manage my anxiety, could I manage my ADHD if I have it? Now we've decided.
Yeah, we're jumping to that you have it and you're diagnosed, and now you're. Yeah.
So if that is the case, and there's something that I can do to where I can not be like, because I posted something a while ago. I'm like, am I the only one? You know that feeling when you're looking up something, and you're like, I wonder how long giraffes' legs are. Oh, what was that thing that I was thinking about last week?
I do remember that post.
And I said all that thing, and then somebody in there says, it sounds like you have ADHD. I'm like, come on.
No.
Yeah. It hadn't even occurred to me, because in my brain, everybody thinks that way. That's how everyone thinks.
It never occurred to you.
But now, no, never occurred to me.
Okay.
How many things have we solved on our podcast?
Well, it's our own form of therapy.
Yeah. And for the listeners, you're welcome.
I was like, for the listeners, what? Like and subscribe. And tell your friends.
Yeah. Like and subscribe and share with your friends. You got to listen to these ladies. They're all over the place.
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen. So, ADHD. So Chalene Johnson also, she's very open about her ADHD. And I think that this ADHD part of it, now that it's all lumped into one thing, I think is some BS, because I'm not hyper. I've never been hyper. I'm not a hyper person. I'm an active person, but I'm not hyper. So people think ADHD is like the bouncing off the walls. No, it's just me. It's like I'm thinking, I just got to keep things going. Like, I got to keep things going. So this just helps me take the edge off and just kind of, bring it down a notch, I think, is just kind of like, bring it down a notch.
Well, in an earlier podcast, you mentioned how when you're working on something, you'll just go for days and days and days and days and keep going. Which kind of hyper. And then you're down for a few days. Yeah. So that's kind of seems like hyper to me.
Oh, and see, when I think hyper, I'm thinking the person who's just like bouncing off the walls. They're just super active. They're like, can't sit still. They're just all over the place. For me, I
think it's more of a hyper mind, isn't it?
Well, I think so hyper focused as I think maybe what you're like. When I get on a project, whether it's a week or 2 months or whatever. Yeah, I will stay on that project or that thing until I figure it out. And then, yeah, I tend to go like, okay, well, that's done. Now what next? I'm very much a what next person. Um, so that whole reinventing myself or second acts, I can't even tell you how many times I've done. I mean, you showed me a video earlier, or we were talked about a video that I did 3 years ago. I'm like, huh. So I was doing videos 3 years ago. Like, I just, I just try this and I'll do this and I'll do that. And I just try it all. That's definitely ADD or ADHD. It's, but as far as for you, there are things that I've tried or that I've used that I felt really helped, but not as, not as, you mentioned for anxiety, when the medication kicked in, right? So uh, there's time, it takes time for the medications to kick in for anxiety, depression, things like that. With ADD or ADHD, you'll know pretty quickly. You may have to adjust dosage or try different ones. I've been on different ones in the past,